I move that the question be now put.
I'll hear from Chris Farr for you.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair, for the opportunity to speak at this committee stage of the New Zealand Public Health and Disability Amendment Bill number 2. Mr Chair, I understand that because we are going through this bill right through all stages and there's going to be no select committee process, something that we on this side of the House is unfortunate that the debate around these clauses is going to be wide-ranging. But I did want to start around the SOP that my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway has spoken about from the Honourable Ruth Dyson, which would replace the title as it currently stands to read the Act now being titled the New Zealand Public Health and Disability Lower Pay and Removal of Human Rights Amendment Act 2013. And Ian Lees-Galloway did a brilliant job of talking through some of the semantics of the wording, the new wording that the Honourable Ruth Dyson has put through. One of the major concerns that I have, Mr Chair, about what is contained in this bill and the subsequent change of the title from the Honourable Ruth Dyson is that there is an ability to not only pay those family members who are caring for those of their loved ones with disabilities the minimum wage, but potentially even lower rates than that. Which is concerning. I understand that's in clause 4 of the bill that has been put before us. And I think that's why the Honourable Ruth Dyson has put forward an alternative title to this bill, which more accurately reflects what is contained in terms of the conditions of this bill. The second half of her amendment to the title of this bill is around the removal of the human rights ability for appeal for those families who think they are getting a rough deal. As Ian Lees-Galloway said in his speech, we are talking about family members of people who have disabilities and those who have, some of them have given up their lives to make sure that their family members are properly cared for. And the best that this government can do is to offer them the minimum wage and take away their right to complain or to put forward an appeal because they feel that they aren't getting the same deal that someone who is doing a similar amount of work or the equal or even greater amount of work is getting paid to do to look after those people with disabilities. And I think this is an unfortunate trend that has come forward from this government because in other pieces of legislation there has certainly been a trend of this government for same work, less pay. Same work, less pay. And that has definitely been the case for the youth rates that the government has brought in. It has certainly been the case for our younger people. And you have to question the amount of compassion on the other side of the House when you've got people, family members, looking after their loved ones with disabilities, and they will not compensate them the same level that other staff who are working for other organisations, they won't compensate them or pay them the same amount of money than those other people, even though there's a family connection there. And you do have to question the level of compassion. As I said, this is clause 1, the title clause, so we've thought up, and Ian Lees-Galloway has talked about some of the alternative titles for this bill. And I think another title of this bill is the Government Again Wriggling Out of Its Responsibilities Act, because this is another way that this government has tried to look like it is taking action on something, but is doing the complete opposite. It is washing its hands of the responsibility, of the fair responsibility to those people who are looking after their family in their own homes and those with disabilities. And we saw in a previous bill, Mr Chair, where the government has tried to wash its hands of the responsibility of Housing New Zealand tenants. The government plans to kick 3,000 Housing New Zealand tenants out of their house. And we see that again with this bill, Mr Speaker, because the government is trying to wriggle out of the responsibility not only to pay those people who are looking after their family members with disabilities, but also to take away their rights to appeal that decision by the government, because as of, I know this House still says it's the 16th of May, but as of yesterday, those people who think they're not getting a fair go, Mr Chair, under this bill, are not going to be able to have the ability to go and appeal the conditions that this bill will put them under. Mr Chair, no select committee process for this bill, so another alternative that we could have to the title of this bill is the New Zealand Public Health and Disability, Lower Pay and Removal of Human Rights and Zero Scrutiny from the Public amendment. Mr Chair?
Scott Simpson.
I move the question.